still work fine. For egg layers, I always throw in some little girls to work the garden. And right now she is loose. She's free to roam wherever she chooses inside of my garden as well. She is not going to eat enough to bother anybody. And she's going to eat more bugs and the trade-off is well worth it. What the bugs would have eaten, she's not going to eat that much.
What kind is she?
You know, I don't know. I cannot find out what kind she is at all.
But she's the bug eater.
Well, any of the banties, the smallest ones are the best for bugs, and they cause the least damage. So the big girls, when they scratch, yeah, they make a mess.
They make a mess.
They throw dirt, and I mean, you be 5 feet away, and they're throwing dirt at you. So,
Yeah.
so the little girls, and I have even a smaller one than this. They go in and they get in all those nooks and crannies, and my neighbor has asked me to let my chickens roam in his yard as well. The earwigs are horrible this year.
Yeah, they are.
So yeah, we don't have an earwig problem at our house. The elm beetles, I don't have a problem with elm beetles. I don't have grasshoppers. It's great. I have a lot of animals, and I let my animals roam. I actually fence off the garden instead of fencing them out. I fence the garden, so they're free to roam. Water all the time. You need to keep water in the winter time. Can get a little difficult. They do have heated waterers. For me, I found the least expensive way was the heated dog bowl, just an open dog bowl. Works really well. Plug it in. It's got its own thermostat. Costs about 20 bucks. So it's not expensive. You don't have to worry about anything like that. For my girls personally, I have an open water bowl. So I just top it off every day. I put a couple of big rocks in there so they're sticking out the top. And that way the bees will use it as well. So all your beneficial insects, you put some rocks in your waterers so they don't get stuck and drowned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I keep finding them all drowned. So.
Right. So just stick a couple of big rocks in there that'll stick out the top of that, and it works really well. So for my pans and everything, I've got the regular chicken waters. You don't need anything fancy at all.
They don't like it. Yeah, we ended up not even using them. So.
Yeah. So they like to stand on things. So if you've got a bowl, a food bowl, that they can stand on the sides and it's going to tip, that doesn't work. But the big dog bowls, you know, they have the flared edges, those work perfect. Something like that works perfect. So you don't have to go get any high-end expensive stuff at all. They're really simple to keep, pretty low maintenance. Is there anything we specifically want to make sure we cover today?
I have a broody hen, and I would like for her to stop.
Take her eggs away.
Yeah, I tried that.
Every day, go out there as soon. They lay it at the same time every day.
Okay.
Go out there and collect those eggs as soon as you can.
Okay.
All of them.
Okay.
And keep the eggs away from her, and usually that works.
Okay.
Sometimes this little thing gets used for everything. The chicken wire is actually to keep baby bunnies in. The baby bunnies go right through this stuff. So having something like this is really helpful to isolate your animals. Okay, and if that doesn't work, isolate her and make sure she's got no eggs. In a few days, she should be distracted, and that's really what it is.
The feathers off her. What'd you say?
Chest?
Yeah. Is that typical breeding? Does that indicate that she's broody?
No.
No. Okay.
So they talk to you after class about that.
Okay.
So mites might be an issue.
Okay, I've checked her.
Okay, they're pretty small. It's hard to see.
Okay, we'll look.
So I'm gonna grab a chicken.
So if you do have mites, what would you put on them?
Okay, so we covered water. You? We covered water.
She's beautiful.
Food. At this age, these girls are not quite layers. They'll be laying in September or October, so they're ready to switch over to layer pellets. It's fine. And I always, especially if they're contained and not free range, get at least 18% protein content in your feed. Okay, and if I was only doing a few backyard hens, go organic. Right. So that's yeah. Okay. So their food, pepper food. And I give my girls fermented feed and sprouted barley. So, and that's something you can add on if you want. Ferment is really easy. The fermented chicken food, you can look it up online. It's really simple to do. When I started, I had half-gallon jars on my kitchen counter, and if you ferment the feed, it increases the protein content and improves the quality. You've got some really good bacteria going in there, better for them, and that the biosecurity that we worry about, avian flu, is really not hitting backyard chicken flocks that are healthy. So it's those factory farms that are having all the problems, and really keep your chickens healthy.
So you don't do like an oyster shell?
So yeah, they need grit and calcium. So your layers need calcium. So the grit is usually in your feed, but if you free range, you've got gravel, dirt, whatever, that's enough.
Okay.
So you're good there. And a lot of times when I go up north, you'll see those banks with all the granite that's decomposed. Grab a 5-gallon bucket of that. It's perfect. You know, throw that in your run. Oyster shell, I always have free oyster shells they can eat as much as they want. So, and I buy it in the 50-pound bags, but you can get it smaller. So, but yeah, give them that. That'll take care of the egg problem. The soft eggs, that should take care of it. Just let them eat as much as they want. And when you first put it out there, they're going to eat a whole bunch. So, okay, so feed, water, grit,
Where do you
calcium.
get that from? The calcium, is that it? Like
So
Zamzo? Or do you do
I go
yours
to
online?
B&B a lot, but
We have oyster shell here.
Zamzo, you do?
Mhm.
Yep.
We don't have
Oh,
we don't
okay.
have feed here, but we have the oyster shell.
Okay.
Mhm.
And another thing they have here is kelp. It's an excellent supplement feed.
Okay, so I've heard that you can take the eggshells and grind them up
Mhm.
and feed them back
I
to them.
always save my shells. You know,
Well, I was composting them, but
Well,
do they have to be like boiled so that the
No.
chickens don't?
no, that
Somebody said that if you
That's what I was
give it
told
to 'em
too.
raw chicken shells,
makes 'em wanna
they'll
eat their own
start
eggs.
eating their eggs.
no,
That's not true.
no. Okay, so all I do is I rinse my eggs, put them in a nice little stack, squish them, let them dry, and then as soon as they're dry, they'll just break right up.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
it. And then I throw it in with the oyster shells. So, and they prefer the eggs over the shells.
Okay, and so back to your fermented feed. What do you just take the regular feed and put it in?
Put it, yeah, don't seal it, because it's going to
Bad
expand.
Bad things happen if you seal it.
Put it in a jar. Do you have water?
Yep, you put a little water over the top, so it's the little water actually setting on the very top.
Okay.
That's it.
In a jar.
That's it. Couple days. Yep. And right now I've got a big 5-gallon bucket that I do, and instead of making it fresh every time, I just feed out of the bucket and then I put some more in.
And how many chickens do you have?
Well, I think at the peak we were almost at 200. Yeah. So too many.
Chicken
Too
math.
many. And then blackberries came 3 weeks early, so it's just crazy at my place right now. So here, I'll take your chicken. Okay, so that covers kind of what to feed them and what they need. Fresh air, you know, let them out on the grass. This is a little Banty.
She's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So who else wants a chicken?
Oh, I gotta get me one of these.
You see that?
Mom's going, thanks a lot.
No.
And that one is a,
This one is a golden laced Cochin Bantam. So there's chickens come in 2 sizes, standards and bantams.
oh,
And this
okay.
is just a little guy. So anybody want to hold a chicken?
So could you talk about the size requirements a little bit? Because my husband keeps saying he doesn't think we have enough room, but I think we do. Because a lot of times they are
I have
out
4.
during the day.
I can
let
have
them out
6.
in our yard at least 2 hours each day.
I live
Right.
right
Do they
downtown.
really need
I
that
have
much room in their coop?
we're right
No,
off Warm Springs, but we have a half
So,
acre.
you're
So I have
talking
a
about
big
an
backyard,
fenced-in
so
area,
we have
right?
We have 5.
Both. So they've got
Yeah.
a
I'm getting
fenced-in
rid of 3,
area
we'll go
that's
back down
probably
to,
like
we'll
it's
go
like
back down to
the
3.
full length of our house
But I
and
mean, I
10
think I
feet
might want
wide.
one more.
10 feet
Why?
wide.
So you're getting rid
So
of
Wow.
that's where they're
I'm
at
getting rid of these 3 roosters.
all day.
Oh, there you
And
are.
then sometimes I open that up and let them be in the yard.
That sounds great.
And we
And
only
I love
keep them up
this
at
big
night.
one.
So how many can I put in that big one?
You can put a lot, probably
Okay.
more than your neighbors will like.
Oh, okay.
So-
the coop is probably
You're gonna have to get one of these.
5 by 5 by.
Okay, you're talking not a building thing. You're talking about a fenced-in area.
Well, now the coop part is.
Okay, just the coop, where they're housed.
Yeah,
Five
it's
by
like
five.
a 5 by 5 by 5.
Uh-huh.
Except for over half of it is the like coop more. That's the run, and then the coop is
Okay.
sitting on half of it.
How many nest boxes?
Well, it's just got the one. It's got like the.
It's got one.
It's not separated. We
Right.
could probably separate it into like 3.
Okay. So you need one nest box for every 3 hens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they lay together, and a lot of times if you have 3 boxes, they'll all lay in one anyway.
That's kind of what
So
I've noticed.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they all lay in one.
yeah. They lay
So that includes.
And I've gone in there and I've got this one that's and there'll be 2 hens
Yeah,
squished in there
exactly.
side by side.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you only need one?
Usually, yeah, if you've got 3 hens, 1 box is plenty.
Okay.
Can you talk about how to get them to lay in the nest boxes and not all over your property?
I have fake eggs. I forgot about that. I was going to tell you about that. I have
you
fake
tell
eggs.
me.
Sorry. So yeah, and I thought about that later on, and I didn't get back to you on that. So I went to the craft
Easter
store,
eggs in July.
and I got
Easter egg hunts
I
in
got some
July.
ceramic, and I've got all kinds of little fake eggs.
In fact, I
So,
still need to
and-
pull up the shed
Yeah,
floor.
and that's how to help get a hen broody as well, is to leave a couple of fake eggs out there.
So they won't go lay around just for the sake of like, because I was figuring that they just wanted to get away from everybody else.
So you're locking yours up inside the coop at night.
Yes.
Okay, so
And I've got I think 6 boxes.
if you would attach a run to that,
Well, there is
So-
a run outside.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
and just leave them in that, instead of letting them go wherever they want, if you'd leave them in the run in the morning and then let them loose after they're done laying.
So do they usually lay in the morning?
Yes,
Okay, so and that's what I've been doing lately, and we've started to see eggs show up again.
right,
In the afternoon.
right. So
Okay.
yeah, be careful with those bombs that are out there. They
I
are
know.
nasty.
It's in the morning.
Yeah. Well, we only have the 2 banties that are laying. All the other ladies
and
aren't
the
old
bandies
enough.
are worse. They want to go lay everywhere else.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any other like healthcare issues to do with chickens and like things that you need to look out for? I was concerned actually when I didn't see any eggs showing up in the houses. I figured they were brooding them again somewhere, but they weren't brooding. They were coming back in every night. And what happens when you get a backed up chicken?
Oh, you're talking advanced. Let's stick with the basics, okay? how to tell? Okay.
You borrow your hand.
Oh, yes, I know. Aren't you so comfy? So,
He's having a nice nap.
chickens store their food during the day. I know. Just hold. I know. Hold still. Now, in here, there's a crop right in here where you can't really feel it because she hasn't had enough to eat yet. I fed them this morning, but I didn't want them to eat too much. So you'll see at night it's kind of bulging. Some of them can really bulge. So that's where they store their food and they digest at night. Okay. So in the evening when they go to roost, they should have a full crop, and you should actually see a little bulge. Okay. And sometimes that gets impacted. Okay. They get too much. The first time I let my girls out to the neighbor's yard to eat earwigs, it was like they were going to tip over. They were so full. I mean, it was pretty disgusting actually. But they do a really good job. So sometimes that gets impacted. It gets so full and stretched out, especially with the dry feed. So another reason to do your fermented feed. But if you're just feeding dry feed, that can happen, and you just kind of massage it out of there, and that'll help. Okay, and basically the same. If they egg bound is what they call it. It's just get used to your chickens. Feel what they should feel like. Don't be afraid to handle them. This guy's never been handled before. Never been out of its cage. Never been touched before by a human probably. I'm sure we've never worked with this little banty before. So they're not difficult. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it for just a little bit longer. So this sauerkraut, and they'll smell really bad too when they get impacted like that. Really easy to fix. Egg bound, a little bit harder, and there's some tips on the internet on soaking them, setting them in water to help with them when they're egg bound. Yeah.
How do you get them in water?
Backyard Chicken is a Facebook group. If you guys Facebook, Backyard Chickens is a great group to be a part of. Idaho Heartland Homestead is a Idaho group. They're awesome with, you know, kind of like the Treasure Valley Organic group. They're really good with animals, and they'd be glad to help you. And that's one of the ways I learned, is actually just being online. So you want to, mites. Mites can be a problem. Usually it's flaky skin, and you can see their feathers aren't as healthy as they should be. All your chickens should have a dust bath, a place where they can go clean themselves. So they use dust to clean themselves and to rid themselves of lice and mites and things like that. And it's just dirt, dry dirt. You can use an old tire or something and put a bunch of dry dirt in there if you want to keep it contained. If you don't, they're going to find a corner somewhere that's dry and dig it up and bathe in that.
At our house, we have like a humongous pile of like dirt
Compost.
that they like
Roll around.
all the time.
My cat does that.
Fluffy, she's made her a little space that she just rolls around and
Just rolls around in it and just fluffs it all up, huh? And it gets up into her feathers and up into her skin when she does that. That's why she's doing it.
Would that be good to put the diatomaceous soil
You
in
can
there
put a little bit in there. I don't, but you can, and some people do.
'Cause I
If
put
they're
it-
doing fine, I don't worry about that.
I put a little bit in their bedding, and I put it just because I don't want them to get bugs.
Right, right.
But they probably eat them, so
So
yeah.
you can actually, they can get worms, parasites. Put it a little in their food for that. The
Oh, okay.
diatomaceous earth.
Well, that
Yeah, if
too.
you're worried
Really?
about that.
That won't hurt 'em.
Well, make sure you get food grade.
Yeah.
Okay, there is different kinds of diatomaceous earth.
Oh,
And
okay.
make sure you got food grade.
Just don't put normal.
Well, yeah, there's some nasty stuff in
Yeah,
their standard
that's what
diatomaceous.
Sean, the stuff we have is food grade.
Yeah,
The, the stuff we have in the store.
Oh, okay.
The stuff
Yeah.
that says insect dust is actually just food grade diatomaceous earth.
Oh.
perfect. So perfect. So you're starting to carry some things in.
Well, it's all gardening stuff. So I carry the oyster shell lime for the calcium for soils and the diatomaceous earth for bugs, but they're just the double duty.
Right.
And how often do you feed them? Like you feed them in the morning, and then they
So-
eat all day bugs, and then at night are you supposed to feed them?
Well, I'm on a little bit different program because I have so many animals and I'm raising some for meat. It's a twice a day chore basically. I would go out there and give them some feed in the morning and check them in the evening. You don't have to give them as much feed as they want to eat because they will overeat and get
Yeah.
fat and quit laying.
That's what ours is.
Yeah. So you want them to go to bed with a full crop and their dish is empty. So about an hour or so before they're done for the day, you don't want their bowl to actually be empty.
So they don't need access to food all day.
No, no,
I really wondered about that.
no.
And in the day, like, do you leave their food out there all day so they can get it at will, or do you just give them a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night? I feel like they eat all day in the yard, and then they come and act like they're starving at night. I just
They are.
They actually.
They run to me. They follow me everywhere.
know.
So
I guess I act like that, and I eat all day too.
yeah, exactly. But we really don't need to. So, and what I train my girls to do is they get treats at night. So, because they're free range, when I want them to come in, I need to be able to get them to come and go as I please, or work the garden, or work the compost pile. So I use Scratch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can buy it with your feed. You can buy some sunflower seeds, whole wheat,
Use grapes.
easy on the cracked corn.
Easy on the cracked corn.
Yeah, easy on the cracked corn, especially it's better in the winter time. Give them some cracked corn at the end of the day. It helps keep them warm when they're digesting. They have to work really hard to digest it. Not so good for them in the summer though.
They overheat.
So yes,
Okay.
So we actually, I think we're doing this all wrong. We have all of our food in just a whatever top fill feeder, and it's just there all the time.
Yeah, and that might be one of the reasons your girls aren't laying too.
Well, they're just not old enough yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So you can't. Yeah. Within this age, they need to feed.
they need to eat all the time.
Yeah.
So
we're talking
once they
about
start
hens
laying,
that are laying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like us. So,
Teenagers eat all the time.
right. Because they're still growing. So yeah, a little more protein. While I got this, I'm going to show you how to do a wing. I know. So I have a 3-foot fence that I have my main girls in, so I don't want them jumping that fence. And some of them don't. Some of them are too fat. Seriously, some of them are, and some of them just don't care. So there's a line right there. See that line of feathers? You want to cut right there. And you can actually leave these last couple because it kind of gets prettier.
So you
Just cut them. Pair of scissors right there. Don't use any fancy scissors. The cheap ones seem to work best. I don't know why. But so does everybody get a chance to see that?
so that it feels so we won't
So
hurt
these
them.
feathers are different.
Yeah, these are different feathers. So you're cutting right there along that line. You have a line to work with.
We have a Hamburg, and that one likes to fly,
Right, the smaller ones like to fly.
but she
Yeah.
hasn't gone out yet. But
So Lindsay's
barred
fannies are getting what, up 6 feet, all just straight up.
Well, we figured out how to drop it down now because it was evidently just being held up. But yeah, it was actually like 8 feet.
Yeah, they can fly because
Yeah.
if they were loose, they'd be roosting in trees. So
And our barred rock could
it's
hop our
really
fences.
easy to clip their wings. You can do one side, and if they're still jumping, do the other side. I mean, it doesn't hurt them at all. If you get up into this area, they're going to bleed a little. So your wingtip is right in there. So, but yeah, just you can feel around and you can feel those feathers. Okay.
Got a question back to the dirt issues. They're bathing in dirt because that layers through there and kills bugs.
I'm sorry.
Bugs can't get to them with the dirt. If they bathe in dirt,
Uh-huh.
they can't get, bugs can't get to them. Is that the reason?
Oh, no, it's just like coats them, coats the bug, smothers them. So, and they kind of run away, and you'll see the girls out if they've got, and usually, I mean, even my girls, it's no big deal. When they do that, then they'll start picking, they're actually eating the bugs that are leaving them. Yeah.
oh, okay.
So yeah, it encourages them to take care of themselves. But most of them are really good at keeping themselves clean, as long as they have a place to do that. So, to help.
Specific size coop and stuff. What are the minimum requirements?
You know, I think the books say like a 2 feet is a minimum amount for a chicken. Personally, I think that's a little small, but it really depends. Do you free range them? How big is their run? If they've got plenty of run space and they're 2 feet is fine for the coop itself. They don't really need much. Like I told you, the only reason my hens use it is they've got the nest boxes in there and those 5 days in the winter time. And other than that, it's a waste of time. That's all they use it for. So it's just those 2 things. Okay, so what else we got?
Baby chickens in a flock. So let's say you let a hen go broody. And did these guys have any issue just becoming part of the flock?
Well, let's start out with how are you going to get your chickens? You can get day-old chickens, and you can buy them from me, or there's other chicken farmers too. I sell mine starting at 10 weeks, so they're fully feathered at 6 weeks. When they're this age, these guys are just about 6 weeks old. They need heat lamps. They need special food. There's a lot of requirements. You can buy pullets, which are supposed to be hens.
Keyword
And
supposed
usually
to be.
the hatcheries guarantee 90% pullets, but this year I had a real problem. My hatchery did not give me 90% at all. We're looking for new hatcheries next year. And this is what happens with day-old hen pullets. A lot of times you're going to get some roosters. So more expensive, it depends on what you want to do and the risks you're going to take. So broody hens. This little girl decided she wanted to sit on some eggs, and I took advantage of that. So I went and got her some hatching eggs. So there's a hatchery in Caldwell, and there's just some local farmers that offer those occasionally. And I stuck 6 little tiny eggs underneath her. 21 days later, we got 5 little chicks out of that. So it's kind of fun to do that, you know, especially if you have kids.
You can also get hatching eggs off eBay if you
Can
ship
you?
during the cooler
Yeah.
months.
And that's
You don't want it freezing and you don't want it too
Yeah.
hot.
And it's really
I
good.
used to have
The day-old
good-
chicks, you can get those from back east. That yolk sac, they're good for 24 hours, so it's really safe to ship day-old chicks. Hatching eggs, they get jostled a little bit, so they're not quite so viable when they're shipped.
I
but they're
have really
still-
good
you've
luck
had
with
good luck.
them
You've
in
got
the
a good
past few
hatchery then.
years.
So
All private party, all different, from
Yeah.
all different ends of the
yeah,
states.
yeah, and I got
The only
Yeah.
ones that didn't do well for me were pheasant eggs. Not
Yeah.
a single one.
yeah, pheasant eggs are hard to do. So and she does quail too. That's her
Yeah,
big
I've
thing
got
is
quail.
So, covers broody hens. So if you've got broody hens and you don't want them because they'll stop laying, take those eggs away as soon as you can. You know, and usually that will distract them enough that it's basically a thing of distraction. You want them to not want to be mommies. You want them to think bugs or something else. So take those eggs away, and yeah, if you have to, isolate them. And that's a point too. These guys, if they're going to a new flock, an established flock, and you let these guys loose in that established flock, they're probably gonna kick their butts. So what you do is take some kind of a cage and put them in there, give them food and water, leave them in there, make sure they're shaded, 2-3 days, and then try letting them loose. It gives them a chance to kind of adjust to each other so they can assimilate into that new flock. They're still going to get picked on. They're still, the pecking order is real. Yeah, chickens have their own thing, and it's usually the biggest hen. So, you know, these, you don't want a mean hen. If you have a mean hen, get rid of her. But usually that's not the case, you know. And it does matter where you buy your chickens from. So, yeah, I'll take it. What is that? Well, I bought some hens this year, and they were all mean. I mean, they were mean. So, they've been raised by a hatchery to 11 months old, and I still have a few left. They're going to butcher. So every time I walked in there, they peck at me. They like my toes. You know, they just peck. They peck on each other. They're just mean. But they were not caged, but confined hens. And they were raised in that environment where they had to reach through wire to get to their feed, so they didn't have any feathers on their neck. And that, yeah, it was more of a, felt like more of a rescue when it happened than anything else. And then I thought, well, I'll have laying hens, but they were just mean. So we're not going to keep them. So these guys have had a pretty easy life. You know, they get fed 3 times a day.
And you handle them, all of them?
These guys have never been handled before. They're out in a big pen where they're all together. They see me at least 3 times a day, though, and they're used to me wandering around with them.
Yeah, that's
So,
that's what mine did, wander around, but we had one that would peck all the time. And the more she got used to me, she quit pecking. She just started,
Right.
you know, she's still a little aloof, but she doesn't peck at me.
yeah, and you can they love crackers and bread. I call them my cracker chickens. I have at least one a year. These are my cracker chickens this year. They live on my patio, so I hose my patio down every day. but yeah, bread and crackers, and they'll follow you everywhere.
Anything not to feed them.
I've
heard citrus was bad.
They won't eat it though. See,
Okay, so it won't hurt them.
Yeah, I've never had an animal that would eat something that the book says they're not supposed to eat.
Okay.
Because I mean, they're.
How about,
Yeah, my girls won't even eat half the vegetables I give them.
yeah, how about the
They're
rhubarb leaves,
picky.
though? They're supposed to be
They're
poisonous.
supposed
and
to compost them.
well, no, but I have them out in the garden, and I don't think they've eaten them yet, but
So they,
if they did, would they die?
well, you have to give them some credit.
I
They-
think,
they-
yeah, because they've been there. I don't think they're eating them.
Yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I did get some off
yeah.
and got rid of them because I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if they were poisonous to chickens too.
Well, it's
So they might be.
yeah, but the chickens aren't. I've never had a problem. The
Yeah.
chickens just don't eat it.
That's what I.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have rhubarb. A lot of people have rhubarb and chickens both, and they'll go down around the base and they'll get all those earwigs. Got her.
I got her.
But Yeah, they're just, they're smart, okay? They're smart. And a lot of times the vegetables and things like that, it's how you present it to them. So if you chop it up, you know, and then they get used to the taste a little bit. So they'll look at broccoli, you know, a broccoli stem, but if you chopped it up or maybe even steamed it a little bit.
That's what I did last night. I'm steaming carrots and zucchini for them. Yeah.
Pumpkins in the
Picking
fall.
bugs for
Oh
them.
yeah,
so they can
squash.
learn.
Well, and well, just finding who's got leftover pumpkins after it freezes after Halloween.
You can stick them in the freezer. So you bust them up and just stick the big chunks in the freezer and take it out later.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah.
So is that like a treat for them? Because I found my chickens to be a little unenthused with my chicken, like kitchen scraps, but I thought they were supposed to go gaga over.
It's a matter of them getting used to it.
Okay, that's kind
So
of what I figured.
if it looks different, then it's suspicious.
So if I just keep on it, will they eventually be like,
Yeah.
woo?
Yeah, if you had turkeys, it would be different. But my turkeys are really weird about anything new. They just totally freak out. It's just the funniest thing. They just, yeah. But chickens will eventually get used to it, put it on the top of their regular food,
Oh.
and maybe even put a little regular food on the top of it.
Oh,
so it
okay.
looks
So
like
don't
it's,
just throw it out. I just throw it out.
yeah, so
That's what I put it out there with, and they usually eat it or they don't eat it.
so Hey, dude.
That's the one that got me
So
in
these
trouble.
guys have been taught by their mother what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. So your hens probably haven't been. So you get to do that. You get to show them what's okay to eat.
Yeah, I saw the little
being
chicks scrounging in
upstaged.
the grass, and it took my chicks a while to figure out before they would. So
Yeah.
that's
The
another
girls are,
top
who's
thing.
that big guy?
Right, it is. It
Yeah.
is. So, yeah. And with my turkeys and a lot of times with my little chicks, I'll throw in a mature hen and they'll kind of help out.
But is it,
I know, you're really pretty.
they don't attack with that age difference?
So, established hens that you know are calm and
That one.
when they've got little chicks, they usually will take to them.
Yeah, I need a baby. Two hens sitting on the nest.
Right?
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, you need to get out, you know?
So are they fertilized eggs? Do you have a rooster?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. So if you have a,
Do you want a rooster?
I would love your rooster. I'm downtown Boise though.
Yeah.
But I want.
And you
Ne-
will get
the
a
neighbors, on
citation.
the other hand,
Yeah,
say
see, you-
differently.
Yeah.
You don't need a
Make sure you
rooster.
write down every time your neighbor's dog barks, and then slap that on their door.
Right. Right.
You don't need a rooster to have a good flock. And I don't keep any roosters year round. So, and I've got a pretty big flock now, and we're out of town where we could, but they're really not beneficial. I don't.
Unless you want eggs, yeah.
Well, no, you don't need eggs for roosters.
That's right. I mean,
Well, unless you want hatching
Yeah.
eggs.
Hatching eggs, yeah. But
Can you talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions about chickens in the wintertime? Because
Oh.
as a first-time chicken person about 6 years ago,
I
I
get
thought
that
they
question
needed
a lot.
heaters. So
Yeah.
Right.
right. So after they're 6 weeks old,
Yeah.
these guys are right at that stage where they're called fully feathered. So most of their fuzz is gone. They got a little bit on their tails still. They don't need any heat at all. You know, once they get their feathers in, they're good to go. As long as you've got hardy breeds. There's some tropical breeds that if you don't do that unless you're prepared to take care of that through the winter time. But these are all really hardy breeds. Some of them have feathers on their feet. My hens have had a little frostbite. Last year was pretty tough. One of them got a little frostbite on her comb along the top. And so she doesn't have a comb now on the very back part. But she looks just fine and she's perfectly healthy. And yeah, it was just a very small little thing. It's not, it was no problem at all. It turns a little black spot. It was just the very back. Yeah, the girls picked it off for her.
Oh, the other
Helpful.
hen.
Extra protein.
Yeah,
And you can put Vaseline on them. That helps a little bit.
yeah,
And
to
that's
keep
really
them.
cool.
Oh, in the winter?
To keep the
Oh.
frostbite, a layer of Vaseline
On their legs and their
on the comb.
Yeah, I've heard that's not always a good thing too.
Yeah, 'cause it might.
So
And
Yeah.
why? It might what?
I don't know. I've had my girls out there, you know, a number of years, and a little bit of frostbite really isn't, you know.
No.
Yeah, they get their feet up underneath themselves on the roost. They cover it with their feathers, so that keeps their toes warm. Like I said, my girls did move inside for a few days last year, but you know, so I give them a lot of credit. They're pretty good at deciding what they should eat and where they should be, and yeah, especially now that I've got older hens, kind of help teach the younger ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't.
Oh no, the very thing I didn't want. Yes. Here, take her. No. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know.
I tried not to feed them too much this morning, so.
Okay.
Okay, so that covers.
I'm gonna make some compost over here.
Yeah. So
We've got
feathered
hoses
feet
everywhere to need it.
definitely won't have frostbite on their feet.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, but even the other ones, they've got all these feathers on their chest. They just cover themselves up. Yeah.
Stay warm.
Yeah, and they'll have more feathers in the wintertime. They'll actually grow a little extra feathers, so they'll be fine. But yeah, she's a pretty girl. I like her.
Oh yeah.
So
What kind is that again?
This is a golden laced cochin.
Okay.
So laced is the pattern. So she's penciled is what they call that pattern. So I don't know. I'm not a chicken judge. I don't do any of that. I just grow pretty chickens.
Yeah.
I love the gray one.
Yeah, let me get one of those out.
Looks like a
That's the Americana.
Yes, Ericanas.
So are the big combs, is that just a rooster feed?
That's a good question.
My neighbor has some of these, are these the barred rock?
These are barred rock and
Orpington?
And I
Buff
kinda
Orpington.
think, now that I think about it, she must have a rooster because it's really big and beautiful with a bright red comb.
Yeah.
right, but the girls will get that too.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So these girls are young, so their combs haven't turned red yet. The roosters' combs have turned red, and they're bigger. Their combs are bigger. They've got I don't remember what they call that along the back and the side.
Wattle.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, because we were hoping they weren't roosters, but they're all roosters, right? They don't get a wattle if they're.
No, they do, but just not as big.
Yeah, mine have it.
Do they all close?
Australian ostrich.
No.
Yeah.
Do you have Australian ostrich?
I do. Those were those
See,
mean
that
chickens
one
I got
is
this year.
The only
They're
one.
wonderful.
I know. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not the
mine is
breed at
too.
all. It's not the breed. It was how they were raised.
Yes.
So,
So, yeah. So are these all roosters then? Because
yes.
only the one crows
Yeah,
so
they're
far.
roosters.
Okay, well,
Yeah. And
Pointed
that's how they
feathers.
try to get along. Is one of them's going to
yeah,
be
one of
dominant.
them's got to be dominant. Yeah.
Yeah. So these guys, this is what we consider flighty. This chicken is flighty. So it is always keeping an eye to the sky. It has a tendency to fly more. So I like them. You know, they kind of stay off to the side. They're never really part of the group. But this is an Ericaana. I've had one for the last few years. Smokey is her name, and she just kind of does her own thing. And the other chickens really stay together in a group, and she can just wander off, and she's really independent. Yeah, she kind of she's the guard too. She has her little position in the flock. She's our guard. But yeah, I think these are pretty. Their cheek feathers get bigger, and they kind of have a different look to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, even so, she's not really flighty. She's not moving around a lot. She seems to be pretty content here. So, but yeah, she would in just a heartbeat. She'd be off.
Do you usually get at least 2 of each breed so they have one of their own kind?
No. Has nothing to do with color, breed, or anything like that. I actually try to mix them up. If you can have 3 chickens, get one great big one, egg layer. Get one that's a little more medium size, and get a small one. Your biggest one's going to be your dominant chicken. She's going to be the boss, and she's the leader. So then there's no fighting over who the leader is that way.
So that's what our Fiona is the leader.
Right.
And the little one follows her around everywhere.
Right. And a lot of times 3 is pretty much what everybody, small backyards,
Yeah.
you know, subdivision, that's what you're allowed. So if you get a banny, you're going to get a bug getter, the large egg breeders, and then, you know, the second one is, you know, whatever looks good. So this one's kind of fun. So, and the silkies are fun too.
Yeah, that's the kind that I have at my house.
So
There's Fluffy's sister.
Yeah, she's so tame.
So yeah, Allie's got one that falls asleep on her lap.
Oh,
So, and last year my cracker chicken was a silkie.
And so, is that as big as they get?
No, there's a little bigger.
Okay.
They're not as big. They're a medium-sized chicken.
Yeah.
They lay about 100 eggs a year, so they're not the best layers. They're good for bugs, and they're just cute.
Cindy, you're
It's fun.
bleeding on your arm.
Yeah, it's a cage. So,
Her head is
so
over
yeah.
Sean.
Anybody want a chicken? Sure. It's feathers. It looks like fur, but it's actually feathers.
better to hold them under the wings than?
Well, that one's usually you put your hand on the top of the wings, but that one is so tame that it doesn't.
Is it because
That's